Good evening. I am your host, Chris McKee, aka Super Kami Guru Alucard, and we are counting down my 500 favorite songs. Now, with this, the whole goal, as I said last time, is to pick 500 songs, but also all by different artists, so many more artists get a shot at the charts. Plus, pick the best songs, which is tricky if certain artists have a lot of really good songs. Now, in this episode, we're going to count down from 450 all the way to 401. And that will be our next 50. So, if you enjoyed the last episode and you're curious to see what I would rank even higher on the list, then stay tuned because here we go. We'll start right off with 450 now. 450 is actually Wiz Khalifa featuring rapper Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia and In My Car. This song has a very groovy, almost 70s soul, funky kind of sounding beat to it. And I'm not the biggest Wiz Khalifa fan, but his lyrics are clever. Juicy J actually has a great verse on it. And it's overall a very catchy song because the laid back chorus, the groove of the beat, and I give it credit because for a song that was just on a mixtape, it wasn't like professionally released on an album. He didn't release an album until quite a bit after that. It seemed like Wiz Khalifa was one of those artists that was better underground. And 3 6 Mafia always had like an underground approach to their music, so you put the two together and you get In My Car. And it's a pretty damn fly song, so definitely check it out. 449 is a country singer, Kenny Chesney, featuring pop singer Uncle Kracker with When the Sun Goes Down. Now, this song doesn't actually sound much like country. It's actually got like a calypso, reggae kind of summertime Caribbean vibe to it, but it's very mellow, it's laid back, and it's one of the first songs I heard back in the day, like on a country radio station, where I was like, wow, that's really a jam. Like, that's got some really smooth tones of the instrumentation because they got some nice steel drums on it. And Kenny Chesney really sings really laid back and mellow. And Uncle Kracker is great on it considering he didn't really have much success other than one solo song himself. But he was great on that song as well. So for that reason, When the Sun Goes Down falls in at 449. 448 is the West Coast rap crew led by Ice Cube featuring Mac 10 and WC, and they are called West Side Connection with their song Bow Down. Now, Ice Cube in himself, he was a great, fantastic rapper, and Mac 10 was quite good, plus WC were good, but they were underground. They weren't really getting much reputation from major labels, so they were Ice Cube's boys. He's like, why don't we make a crew together? So that began the West Side Connection. And when they made their debut album, it was really something because they had songs with great hip hop singers like Nate Dogg. But the reason I chose Bow Down is because it's the anthem that them as the West Side Connection they're most known for. I mean, they also had other great songs like King of the Hill, but 448 has definitely gotta be Bow Down. Unfortunately, the 447 spot goes to Lisa Loeb, who was a one-hit wonder, but she was quite good. She had a very unique style to her. She kind of looked like the nerdy girl who hung out in the library, but she was cute. And she had a very powerful, beautiful voice. And the song Stay, which is the one I chose, her one hit, it was featured in a film called Reality Bites, and it was a very big song. It's great. It's kind of got a timeless quality to it that despite being a one-hit wonder, she rap she definitely like left her mark on the 90s era of music because it seems like everywhere you would go back then that song was playing. And it's sad that she couldn't achieve much more success than that, but I guess she had her own show going for a while, kind of spoofing the failed attempts of her career. And sadly, because she couldn't achieve more, she gets 447. 446 goes to Canadian rock band Nickelback with their song Saving Me. Now, they have lots of good songs, and they're Canada's own, but the reason I chose Saving Me is because the video was actually one of my favorite music videos I've ever seen. Like, the concept of everybody, like, being able to sense that people are in trouble, but it's whether they choose to help people, that makes all the difference. And it's just such a deep, profound concept they did with the video. And it really showed that the song means so much more than just what first catches the ear. But once you actually see the video and understand what the concept is really about, Saving Me is like really one of their best songs. Like, it's my personal favorite, but it's definitely up there as one of their more profound songs. So for that reason, Nickelback gets 446 with Saving Me. Next, 445 is Christina Aguilera with Genie in a Bottle. Now, the reason I picked this song is it's catchy. It's probably one of her most famous and successful songs. And the reason I say that is because it's actually the only song in the era when she was competing with Britney Spears and a lot of the other pop divas that knocked Britney and everybody else out of the number one spot on the charts, which shows it was really good. In fact, What a Girl Wants managed to, but only when Britney didn't have a single charting, whereas Genie in a Bottle actually knocked her out of it. And the song is quite good. It's catchy. It shows when she looked her most beautiful. She was young and she didn't really have that dirty image that she developed later. But she could always sing, and that became apparent, especially with that and early songs like the soundtrack to Mulan that she did the song for. But yeah, that's why it falls in at 445. It's overall a very good song. 444 is the Dog Pound with their song What Would You Do? Now, there are so many things that just make this song really grand as like a hip hop classic that I was like, you know what? It's an underrated and underappreciated masterpiece. In the sense, yeah, that awesome G-Funk beat that's very similar to Dr. Dre's production, because Daz of the group was very on that level at the time. He was very good with the G-Funk sounds. Their verses are killer. They're actually dissing Eazy-E, and they do a really good job to an extent. And the way Jewel, their main R&B singer on Death Row Records, sings like the bridge at the end, you just don't see it coming. It's wild, it's powerful, and everything combined is why I put What Would You Do by the Dog Pound at 444 on our list. But yeah, it's dope. 443 goes to the Japanese pop rock group B.O.A. and their song Every Heart. Now, I first heard this song in the Inuyasha soundtrack as one of the ending themes, but it has a very beautiful melody. It has very unique percussion that really lays back except for build-ups, but it kind of has a very quick tempo that almost has a very soothing, waltzy kind of feel that's very nice to it. But the way they mix mostly Japanese with a little bit of English, it kind of guides any English listeners along. But to know the lyrics and understand the deep poetry behind what's being sung, then you really develop like the level of appreciation I have. And that's why B.O.A.'s Every Heart falls in at 443. 442 is Vanilla Ice with his song Ice Ice Baby. Now, it's one of the classic, most well-remembered hip-hop songs of its era, and some people think it's a bit cheesy. Some people say, oh, well, he was a one-hit wonder. But musically, he broke ground by what he developed with it, and the Queen sample that he uses for the beat is actually quite a nice use of it. Like, as a hip-hop expert who's analyzed all the sampling and the production, I could say that it's really well put together. And his lyrics, despite not having swearing, are really well put together. They're pretty clever, and that helped him to sell records. Unfortunately, he got screwed over with the publishing later on, so he stopped making money off it. That might have been another reason he decided to retire from rapping in the industry. But for giving us the classic that everybody knows, Ice Ice Baby, it falls in at 442. 441 goes to the rock band Foreigner with their song Cold as Ice. Now, they are a really good band and they've had plenty of great big hits over the years. But why I chose that song is it's been sampled, it has been referenced, it has been such an influence on even modern culture and music after it that it kind of has become the staple of the band. It's one of those songs that everybody knows. The piano is that classic, like, triad chord progression that, just gets the groove going. And it's just a really well put together song. So for that reason, I was like, Foreigner have a lot of good songs. But overall, I gotta give the crown to Cold as Ice at 441. And I'm sure if there's any other Foreigner fans out there, they would agree that that probably is one of the best, if not the best. 440 goes to the country legend Waylon Jennings with his song Waymore's Blues Part 2. Now, he has written, sung, and played guitar and composed on a lot of songs. He is a very legendary musician and figure. But the reason I chose that song is because it's almost over time become an anthem for how distinct he really was, not only as a country artist, but just as an artist in music. With his rock and blues approach to it, he really helped shape like what country music is nowadays, like the modern alternative rock vibe of it. Waylon Jennings was heading in that direction long before a lot of other country artists, like really incorporating the old sounds of blues and even mixing more upbeat rock and roll kind of tempos. So for that reason, Waymore's Blues Part 2 falls in at 440. 439 goes to the rock band Def Leppard with their song Photograph. Now, it's one of those songs everybody's heard, everybody knows, it's very recognized, and it really has, despite it having such a simple message, a very broad, universal, and connectable message. Now, the melody is actually very beautiful. There's some great solo work and instrumentation, and the drums in their band were great, especially when you realize the handicap and the limitations of what their drummer was under. But despite all that, they were quite an incredible group, and they had many other songs, but that one always sticks out in my mind. Like, I was thinking, Def Leppard, what's a good song by them? And that's the one that comes in, almost like a photographic memory, right? So, for that reason, I make Def Leppard's Photograph at 439. 438 goes to the Supremes with their song Baby Love. Now, it's one of those classic songs that kind of defines the Supremes, and it really is a good showcase for Diana Ross being the lead singer in the group. Now, Motown originally said that because her voice was in the lower range, they kind of were iffy about her kind of leading the group, but once they realized like letting the other ones lay back and letting her take the lead with that lower sultry voice, it was instant gold, and that actually became one of their biggest hits. It was their biggest selling song at the time, and it really propelled them to superstardom, and hence that's why too Diana Ross would later on pursue a solo career and even go into acting. So for being the iconic group that they were, they've even had a movie made about them. The Supremes get 438 with Baby Love. 437 goes to the alternative rap group The Fugees, which consisted of Pras, Lauryn Hill, and Wyclef Jean. Now, they were actually kind of on the short end of the stick after their debut album didn't do so good. But when they made The Score, it ended up becoming the best-selling hip-hop album of all time, selling over 15 million copies. And the reason probably was because of songs like Killing Me Softly, and of course, a song that everybody knows the Fugees for, Ready or Not. Now, overall, Killing Me Softly was a more successful hit single, but I chose Ready or Not because, as the Fugees, it really defines how each member in the group had their own strength. Wyclef rapped his way, Lauren rapped her way and sang, and Pras did his own thing and also did kind of like a reggae spin on it. So the differences of all the themes, the Caribbean influence, the African influence, everything all blended together, the Fugees definitely get 437 with Ready or Not. 436 goes to the band Smash Mouth with their song All Star. Now, everybody knows this song because it's been in so many movies like Rat Race. It's been, actually, the band themselves were featured in that movie. And it was also used in Shrek and a bunch of other songs by them. But that was the song that defined them. It was their biggest hit, and although they were a one-hit wonder, it really was one of those songs that still gets thrown on today because it's just a really great, funny, kind of laid-back song for a party when you don't want to think too hard. But there is kind of an inspiring underlining message, almost like a silver lining hidden in the song. And the way it's actually composed and crafted together in such a melancholy way, I find it to be genius. And for that reason, I was like, they really deserve more credit, even if just for that. So 436, Smash Mouth, All Star. 435 goes to Snoop Dogg, formerly known as Snoop Doggy Dogg back then, with his song Murder Was the Case. Now, he had actually just beat a murder trial right when he was in the middle of making his debut album. So the song has kind of an eerie truth to it. But the reason I picked the song is because overall, it really shows Snoop lyrically rapping at his best. It's not some funny, cheesy, laid back, I'm drunk, I'm high, smoking, freestyling. He's really giving you a story about the dark reality of growing up in like the ghetto and being forced to having to defend yourself, one, but also when you get into a point where the devil tempts you, how far do you let him tempt you? And that's the real scary part. But overall, it's a classic in gangster rap, and I gotta give it its due at 435. Snoop Dogg, Murder Was the Case. 434 is Radiohead and their song Creep. Now, they've always been kind of the underdog of alternative rock in the music industry, but they've always come out with some very unique, distinct sounding, and rather profound music. Now, what Creep shows is the dark side of being unwanted in a romance, but it's also showing the lonely side. And there's so many dimensions that they add to the song, lyrically and musically, that it really becomes a distinct song and sound that is its own. That's why Radiohead became so successful for that song, because it set them apart from everything. And for any band to even do that, which I feel they've done that with all their songs, but Creep was the game changer. And for a group to do that, it's kind of like legendary. It shows what geniuses Radiohead really are. 433 goes to Obie Trice featuring Mr. Porter with his song Spread Your Shit. Now, the reason I chose this song, Obie Trice has had a lot of big songs, but this song was a personal favorite. It's one song I always liked because it showed how good Mr. Porter can sing. He's also known as con artist in D12, and he's produced for a lot of other artists like Pharoah Monk and stuff. He's a very talented artist. Now, he gets to provide a chorus and lay out a really funky beat. And Proof does the intro, and it's kind of funny, but the way you hear Obie Trice rap to it, it's a funny way of rapping, but it's actually some of the best lyrics that Obie Trice has ever spit. And not even to diss Obie Trice, because I find that there's points he's come stronger than Eminem. He is a very solid rapper. But yeah, Spread Your Shit definitely got to be a personal favorite, and it falls in at 433. 432 goes to jazz's greatest composer of all time, Duke Ellington, with Take the A Train. Now, everybody knows Duke Ellington, but because his music was so long ago, I bet if I mentioned it to a lot of people in our modern generation, they would be like, oh, what song does he do? Like, give me a song of his, because they wouldn't know much of his work. Now, Take the A Train, the reason I pick it is because that is a brilliant composition he done, but it's also been covered by so many other great jazz artists like Charles Mingus that it's like it's taken on a whole new dimension by being done by other artists. Yet it's kind of like the classic Duke Ellington anthem that really shows he wasn't just a good pianist, but he was a brilliant genius as a jazz composer, and even just as a composer of music. 431 goes to 1980s era rapper and Jay-Z's mentor, believe it or not, Big Jazz. He had a song called Hawaiian Sophie. Now, this was actually the first time Jay-Z appeared on record, rapping little vocals as like sort of a conversation with Jazz, talking about this girl he met in Hawaii. And the song is actually a great song because it tells a very funny story of him trying to fight this big guy who looked like he would beat you up and smash you like a coconut, right? But he was crazy because he wanted this girl that much, so he challenges her. And the beat to it, although it's very old school, it has ukuleles and a very Hawaiian sound. So it doesn't sound like any other rap song I've ever heard. And for that reason, it's distinct quality. It shows what a genius Big Jazz was, why he later would rap on other Jay-Z songs when Jay-Z made it, and why he helped to develop Jay-Z as an artist. So for that reason, 431, Big Jazz, Hawaiian Sophie. 430 goes to the great Kool and the Gang with their song Hollywood Swingin'. Now, the reason I picked this song is because it might not have been their biggest song. They had other songs that were really big hits. And another song I really love musically and instrumentally is just the pure instrumental jam, Summer Madness. It's great. It's been sampled in hip hop. But Hollywood Swingin', not only had it been sampled in hip hop too, but I love that song because when I first heard it in the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, like it really has that awesome groovy jam rhythm, and plus the lyrics, although they have kind of a funny approach, they actually have like a real message of like the desire to make it in Hollywood, to be a big star, and it's something I could relate to. And I guess for that reason I was like, man, those funk jams are tight. I dig them. And that's why it falls in at 430. 429 goes to Kelly Clarkson with her song Miss Independent. Now, a lot of people might say, hey, that's a girl song. But the reason I dig that one and I chose it, she's done some other songs that were good too. But I really love the rocky, upbeat rhythm to that. Plus, that was like kind of the jam in my era, like remembering back to the 90s. Plus, a lot of people thought she was going to be a one-hit wonder because a lot of the idols after her and up until that point, they only had one hit song after the show and then they kind of panned out. Very few made it beyond one hit. But Miss Independent signaled and signified that Kelly Clarkson was her own artist, that although she used it to get to where she needed, from there on she wouldn't look back. And you really could see that she's the one that's kept going because she is independent. She's done her own thing the whole time. And I respect her for that. That's why I was like, you know what? I'll give that the 429 spot. 428 goes to G Unit member and rapper Lloyd Banks and his song Warrior. Now, he's had some very big, huge hit singles like On Fire and stuff. So Fly, which Timbaland produced. It was crazy successful. But what I love about Warrior, even though that's one of the lesser ones, it's Lloyd at his most hardest. The beat is great. It's a reference to the movie The Warriors. It's just, it's a bang on song. Like, it's that anthem. Like, it's Lloyd at his best. Like, he's going for blood. Like, it's not the mainstream pop chart topping hit, but it shows how good, how hood, how street Lloyd Banks could be. And that's why, like, of all the albums that he did, his first one was an absolute masterpiece because he had blended poppy commercial appeal perfectly with the right street image that suited him. And you hear that in Warrior. So definitely 428. 427 goes to the rock band Bush and their song Swallow. Now, they were a very underrated rock band in the grunge era. They were successful with songs like Swallow and a few others, but they didn't get really the credit they deserved because they were competing with a lot of the other big bands at the time. Same thing happened with like bands like Smashing Pumpkins, Stone Temple Pilots. They were very underrated. But what I love about this song is there's such a unique bluesy haunting quality in the singer's voice. He actually was married to Gwen Stefani, ironically, and he was a very good singer. He had a very distinct sound with his guitar too, and I feel like they were often underappreciated and overlooked because of the era. But overall, Bush were a great band, and that's why I decided, you know what, I'll give them the 427 spot. 426 goes to R&B singer Faith Evans and I Love You. Now, a lot of people know Faith Evans because she was actually the late rapper Notorious B.I.G.'s wife, and she sang on a few of the later songs and even tribute songs after his death. But as a solo artist, she had a few big hit songs. It's just a lot of people mostly remember her for that. Now, that's why I picked I Love You, because as an R&B song, it really shows, she wasn't just Biggie's wife. She really had that beautiful gospel rooted R&B voice, and that's why Biggie fell in love with her. That's why Diddy signed her. In fact, Diddy had signed her. He had gotten her signed before he even got Biggie signed, because it was harder to sell a rapper than an R&B singer back in the day. So for that reason, Faith Evans, I Love You falls in at 426. It's a jam. Check it out. 425 is another G Unit rapper, Tony Yayo, and his song Live by the Gun. Now, it was co-produced by Dr. Dre, the instrumental. It's very good. It's fire. It's dark. It sounds a lot more less poppy than some of Tony Yayo's other work, and I love a lot of Tony Yayo's work, I won't lie. In fact, I feel he's very underrated in the group, and in some cases, he actually has a lot of better songs than some of the other members. Live by the Gun really shows you he's the hardcore one in the group. He's the one that's really had to put up with the most shit, who's done time, who's, gone back, who's sold drugs, who lived a real hard life just trying to survive. And it's like 50 always respected him because Tony lives like a warrior, like a soldier on the road, always ready for it. And you hear that and Live by the Gun. So that's why I'm like, yeah, that's definitely 425. 424 falls in with Kenny Loggins and his song Danger Zone from the Top Gun soundtrack. Now, it's one of those classic songs that everybody kind of jokes about and references, and they always say about how Kenny Loggins did a lot of these cheesy soundtrack songs like Footloose and I'm Alright from Caddyshack, but Danger Zone as a composition is actually very well put together, like the rock, the guitar, the keys, and it actually shows what a great artist he was, because a lot of people kind of discredit him and they knock him, but Kenny Loggins composed and made a lot of this stuff all by himself. As a solo artist, he was very talented, and he often doesn't really get the credit he deserves. So I was like, you know what? Danger Zone definitely gets 424 by Kenny Loggins. 423 is country singer Eddie Rabbitt with his song I Love a Rainy Night. Now, this song has been covered by other artists, but I love Eddie Rabbitt's original version because of the organs. It really doesn't even sound like traditional country with those organs, but it's great. It's got a very distinct vibe, and me personally, I actually love relaxing and meditating on a rainy night. In fact, often when I'm doing my meditations, I'll sit and I'll put on a video of just rainy background ambience with jazz music playing. So I love a rainy night, and because of that, because of the relatability, I'm like, wow, Eddie Rabbit says it good. But yeah, it's a great song. He sings it really good. The instrumentation is tight, and even for a country song, it's just a great song. It's classic. So 423, definitely. 422 goes to Jay-Z's first protege, Memphis Bleek, and his song The One. This song features Rihanna in one of her first record appearances ever. And often he gets overlooked, he gets discredited because he's never been as successful as Jay-Z. But this song really did pretty good for him. And the reason the song actually shows what a great artist he is because he has got a slamming beat. He's got like one of the greatest, most successful R&B like singers of the modern era, like on the song complimenting it. And it's a really cute song because it shows Rihanna when she was at her best, as well as Memphis Bleek. And I really feel like Memphis Bleek learned everything that Jay-Z knew, and because of that, he's just as good lyrically sometimes, and that's why he definitely deserves more credit than he gets. So 422, Memphis Bleek, that's you. 421 goes to Dido and her song Thank You. Now, it's a song that got sampled for Eminem's Stan, and a lot of people often only remember it really for that. But Dido's original version is in many ways more beautiful, and it often really should get looked at more because what Eminem used with the song was just one part of the song. And it's nice, it's deep, it could make a chorus, but once you actually realize what she's singing, the song takes on a whole new dimension once it picks up, and it actually has a happier sound to it. Like the beginning sounds very dark and sad, but then she's saying, because of the good things you've done, I want to thank you. And it's actually very beautiful, more beautiful than Stan. So for that reason, it makes the cut at 421. Dido, thank you. And definitely check that out if you've only heard Stan. 420 goes to Paul Engerman with his song Push It to the Limit from the Scarface soundtrack. Now, a lot of people are like, really? But I'm like, honestly, the keyboards, the way he sings it, the way it fits the movie, I'm like, a lot of people have tried to say, oh, we should remake the Scarface soundtrack. The director won't let him do that because, one, there's the classic vibe, they don't want to toy with it, and two, because given the era that Scarface is set in, its 80s pop was the music of the time. And Push It to the Limit, it's 80s pop, but that's as hardcore and as street as you could really make it sound for pop music in the 80s. And for that reason, given that it's Scarface's like sort of theme song, it really is perfect. It's often like not really credited, but the way he sings, it's great. The way the lyrics are, the way the instrumentation all comes together, Push It to the Limit, it's cool shit. And that's why it's definitely gotta be 420 for me. Next, at 419, we have Black Uhuru and their song Darkness. Now, Black Uhuru were actually the first reggae group to win a Grammy for reggae music for the best reggae album of the year. And they broke ground with that, and they had a lot of other really great songs. But the reason I chose Darkness is because there's almost like a deep hidden social message in that song. Sure, they had Great Train Robbery. Sure, they had Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But Darkness really talks about how the evil spreads upon the world and it corrupts man, and we have to try and fight against the darkness of man as humans. And that's why, it's because they really had a message. They had groovy reggae tunes, but they had a message. And that's why Black Uhuru won that Grammy, and they made it to 419 on our list with Darkness. 418 is West Coast rapper from Compton, Eazy-E, and his song Easier Said Than Done. Now, he had other songs that were bigger hits like Boys in the Hood, We Want Easy, but Easier Said Than Done really has top-notch production from Dr. Dre, some really tight lyrics written by the DOC, and Easier Said Than Done has really become that anthem for how Easy was as a rapper, because he was not a rapper that was trained as a rapper. He didn't write his own lyrics. He didn't really have much experience until he started making Boys in the Hood with Dr. Dre and NWA. But because he was kind of the private investor having the most money selling drugs in the time of the group, they're like, well, you should do it. This song fits you best. So he did it. And from there, it's easier said than done for him, but he gets the job done because he's Eazy-E. And that's why it falls in at 418. 417 goes to Akon, the R&B singer and rapper, with his song Locked Up. Now, that song was actually one of the first singles he released. It features Styles P. It's really good, and it's deep because he really went to jail for something he shouldn't have. He regretted, and it was kind of a mistake that he got played for, and for that reason, he became a convict, and that's why when he got out, he formed his label Convict Music. People like Eminem and Snoop Dogg, they would help, his debut album to go on and sell. And then when he, sorry, not his debut, but his second album, like they backed him, and people like Styles P even backed him very early on because they could sense he had a very powerful voice, a very unique talent, and he's got the kind of voice. He could sing reggae, he could sing R&B, he could sing hip-hop, whatever you need him to, he's got it. And that's why Akon is the man at 417. Hilary Duff gets the 416 spot with Come Clean. Now, this is a very underappreciated gem that I've often talked with other people about the actual lyrics being so deep, about talking about wanting the rain to wash away your past so you could completely start fresh, like start anew, a new life, a new beginning, almost like the idea of reincarnation. But it's such a deep and profound song that it's like if you gave that song to any singer, they could probably do good with it, and yet Hilary Duff was the one to do it. It's special for that reason, and nobody else ever did it. And I really feel like because she was more successful as an actress, and after she had a kid and she really didn't have the hits that she had, like when she made Metamorphosis, Why Not, and So Yesterday, that she kind of fell off the map. But she was very talented, always, and songs like Come Clean definitely show this. And I mean, I can't knock her. I went to see her in concert when I was younger. No lie. 415 goes to Talib Kweli and his song Around My Way, featuring John Legend. Now, this song was the first time I'd ever actually heard Talib Kweli rap, and he speaks some real deep, religious, philosophical, almost sort of speech about what life is like, about how many people have different beliefs, but through unity we can advance and make the world a better place. It's very deep, and the piano is beautiful. They're actually using a sample of the Police's Everything She Does Is Magic as the main riff, but John Legend is playing piano around it and singing, and it's incredible. And that song alone really shows what great artists both of them. And that was when John Legend was still coming up. He was just starting out. That was one of his first record appearances, and that was very early in Talib Kweli's career. But both are incredible, and Around My Way definitely deserves the 415 spot. 414 goes to the side project band of Swan and their song Always. Now, Swan was a band that was briefly led around the time they made a movie called Spun, and a lot of the songs they made were featured in the soundtrack. But they did have an album. It was basically a side project that Billy Corgan did to experiment more with acoustics, and it was a very beautiful album. They had a very distinct sound. It really showed that Billy Corgan often got labeled as the grunge alternative rock era kind of artist, but even playing those like country bluesy kind of songs like Always. He totally had expanded his sound, and he created some things that were even more beautiful than the Smashing Pumpkins. And that's really part of what makes Spun such a great movie too, is the soundtrack and the songs from Swan. So that's why I'm like, yeah, that's definitely 414. 413 goes to the great and legendary Beethoven and his Moonlight Sonata. Now, as a classical piece, everybody's heard this. It's very beautiful, it's very mysterious, kind of has a sad, haunting quality to it, but everybody seems to acknowledge it as classical music's first great instantly recognized romance piece. And Beethoven was very troubled. He had a hard childhood, dealing with his father, and eventually he went deaf. It got to the point where he had to feel the vibrations on the floor to be able to play the piano and compose. But he still kept going, and Moonlight Sonata is one of those beautiful romantic ballads he composed, because it was made for his wife, and it really has like a very dreamy quality that it has a sadness, but it almost has like a purveying hope that keeps the melody flowing the entire song. And that's why Beethoven Moonlight Sonata falls in at 413. 412 goes to Ludacris and his song from Theater of the Mind, Undisputed. It actually features the fighter Floyd Mayweather, and he is basically talking to him while he raps in between. Now, Ludacris delivers some of his greatest lyrics, some of his most coming for bloodthirsty punchlines ever. The beat is slam. It's very jazzy. It's very soulful, and it's almost like he's fighting with other rappers. Like he's proven that he's got the lyrics to go the distance. That he could really out rap most of the modern era rappers, and he kind of proves it in his own way. And that's a ballsy big statement to make. But for a rapper as famous as Ludacris, it's not really out of question. And then to actually deliver the lyrics he does that are really in a league of their own, he kills it. So that's why I'm definitely like, you know what, Ludacris, you get 412. 411 goes to Japanese pop rock singer and voice actress Aya Hirano and her song Super Driver. Now, she is most famous for doing the voices of Haruhi Suzumiya in the Japanese voice acting dubs, as well as Misa from Death Note. But she is a really great singer. She's had other fantastic songs like Bokuen Desho Desho. But because she plays Haruhi, and Haruhi actually does sing some songs in the show, that's why like they're like, oh, we want a voice actress that can really sing. And there's even songs where they have all the female actresses in Haruhi singing together, and she worked really well with them too. But Super Driver is a really funky, upbeat rock anthem that just it drives the melody the whole way, and the way she uses English throughout it, she's clever, she's witty, and Aya Hirano is in a league of her own. Definitely, she's the Super Driver at 411. 410 goes to Southern rap group Outkast and their song Crumblin' Herb. Now, I chose this song because that whole Southern playalistic Cadillac music was great. It had songs like Players Ball, that song, Get Up, Get Out, and Get Something. It just was a masterpiece. That really was Outkast, like, undisputed, like, best album. But Crumblin' Herb is really that relaxed, mellow jam, the nice R&B chorus by Sleepy Brown, which he would work with a lot. The beat, it's funky. They talk about just relaxing and want to get high, because you never know when you're gonna die. You never know when the world's gonna end. So it's like, instead of worrying, instead of stressing, instead of causing violence, doing bad things, just do your thing, do good, relax, crumble some herb, and have a good time. And you can't really argue with a message like that, because it's very positive and peaceful, and you don't always see that in hip hop. So definitely Outkast, you get 410. The British invasion sweeps in at 4:09 with the Kinks and their song All Day and All of the Night. Now, they had other songs like You Really Got Me, but I chose this one because this is like almost like a personal favorite. The guitar, it really borders into punk before punk existed. It's very ahead of its time. It's groundbreaking, and the Kinks were a really fantastic band for their era. They were probably one of the leading bands, like up there with the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all those. And they often, because of the competition, they perhaps get overlooked, but the Kinks in some ways outsold some of those artists before they even sold a lot of records, such as Black Sabbath, who were not really considered mainstream in their time. But yeah, the Kinks definitely get the 409 spot with All Day and All of the Night. 408 goes to another Jay-Z protege and his song What We Do. The artist is Freeway, and it also features Beanie Sigel and Jay-Z himself on it. But Freeway is quite an underrated rapper. He has a very unique, distinct style. It's very good. He can actually twist his flow and bend it around like the different rhythms on a beat. And a lot of people don't even realize the complexity of what he's doing, because unless you're really a rap specialist and analyst, you wouldn't even get what he's doing. His rhyming style doesn't sound like anybody else for this reason. He's not often considered mainstream. This was one of his bigger songs, and the reason is the beat is bumping. It's just Blaze banging out some top-notch production with soul samples. Jay-Z's ripping it, Beanie Sigel's ripping it, and even Freeway delivers some of the most crucial, memorable lyrics of his whole career. And that's why What We Do by Freeway falls in at 408. 407 goes to the rock group AC/DC and their song TNT. Now, I like this song personally as one of my favorites. It was hard to choose with them because they have a lot of really good songs. In fact, it was kind of a toss-up between this or Highway to Hell. But overall, I wanted to go with TNT because what I love about this song is it was one of the few songs that was recorded that was a really big hit with their original singer before, unfortunately, he died and they had to get a replacement. But what I love about TNT is the explosive anger behind the idea of the song. Like, you light somebody's fuse, they're gonna blow. And it's a very cool idea, and because of the hard edge to the rock guitar and the groove to it, it really captures the mood, the vibe, and the emotion so well. And in my opinion, that song captures the epitome of AC/DC just as well as any other song. So TNT definitely gotta be 407. And it was close because it could have been Highway to Heaven. 406 goes to the master of funk, the leader of the Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton, and Atomic Dog. Now, this song has been sampled in hip-hop more than most other songs because of that whole bam 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 bam. It's that bass, like they've used it in so many things, like Tupac's "Can't See Me," "Fuck with Dre Day" by Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg's "What's My Name." There's even an Ice Cube song that uses it. But my point is, the reason I chose this particular song is because it really is a staple of funk music. It shows what a genius on the synthesizers and harmonically George Clinton was. And it really is the most memorable song of George Clinton. 405 is Harlem rapper Cameron, formerly known as Killer Cam, back when he rapped with Big L and Mace, and his song D-Rugs, off his debut Confessions of Fire. Now, he had other songs that were a lot bigger hits later on, but I chose D-Rug because it's actually the most profound song Cameron ever wrote. He tells a story about this guy named D-Rugs, and D-Rugs is messing around with his aunt, he's messing around with his mom. He don't like this D-Rugs, but this D-Rugs is getting him work and he's making him money, so he's got to kind of respect him. And eventually, you know what? He gets arrested dealing with D-Rugs, and so does his wife. I mean, his mom. But here's the thing. His mom gets cardiac arrest, he gets arrested by the cops. So it's got a very sad, tragic twist. Don't mess with drugs, and that's the twist. So that's why 405 Cameron D. Ruggs. 404 goes to the King of Swing, Benny Goodman, and his song Your Mother's Son-in-Law. Now, he has a lot of bigger hits. He has a lot more songs that are more famous and well known, but I chose this particular record because not only does Benny Goodman deliver like fantastic clarinet performances. His whole band is on the ball on this jam. But it is also the first record that the legendary Lady Day Billie Holiday sang on herself. Now, this is what really established her as the greatest singer of her era and as a genius of jazz improvisation vocally, because it was uncommon for an artist like Benny Goodman, who was white, to work with a singer like that. But they needed somebody who could really sing and keep up with the fast tempo and the craziness of the melody. So Billy was it. And together, her and Benny Goodman definitely make the 404 spot. 403 goes to voice actress and singer Yuko Goto. Let me make sure I said that right. Yuko Goto. Okay. Sorry, I forget that sometimes because this was actually the only song she really ever did, and she did it for the soundtrack of the show The Haruhi Suzumiya Melancholy. But the reason she did this song is for her character, and it's a very funny song, but it's catchy, and it's almost like one of those songs like if you had given this song and told somebody, okay, you're a great singer, sing this seriously, it would have been like the most powerful, incredible thing. And because it wasn't, it's almost got a humorous, like, they're struggling to really do it as best as they could, which fits the character of the show. But because of how beautiful and great the song is musically and lyrically and everything, it's fantastic. It's like, wow, that really is a great song. So definitely 403. 402 goes to Canadian rapper Classified and his song Find Out. Now, he's had a lot of other great songs like Hard to Be Hip Hop and Inner Ninja, which was a very big hit for him. He even made a song sampling Canada's national anthem called O Canada. So he's a very proud Canadian, and he's a very talented, underrated rapper who doesn't get the credit he deserves, probably from the fact that he is in Canada. But this song is banging. It's got a very bluesy jazz soul sample. It's got a bumping beat, and he becomes like the detective with rap, like trying to figure out why things ain't right in the game, why things ain't right in the industry, and he's got to find out. And for that reason, it's like he's on a mission, he's on a quest, and you got to admire him. And yeah, Classified always delivers. He's always been a good rapper. I respect dude, and it's good to see that Canadian rappers putting it down like that. So yeah, he gets 402 with Find Out. Concluding our program tonight, since we posted the first episode yesterday and we'll post this episode tonight, this last one is very powerful, but it's like some people probably wonder why. Strutter is the song I chose, Strutter by Kiss, and that falls in at 401. Now, the reason I chose this song, and it's like, they would more be defined by songs like Rock and Roll All Night, and some people really look at them as almost like a cheap novelty rock act. But what makes Kiss great is their ability to come up with simple songs and add a very bluesy, rich tone to them. That it's blues, but it's so hard and edgy, it's hard to even tell what's fully mixed into the cauldron. And Strutter is a really good example of the blues influence on Kiss. And for that reason, it makes it to 401. Well, that's all, folks. So please stay tuned tomorrow night, where we will count down the next 50 in our list. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. This is just my opinion. This is just to share ideas and also, get people's thoughts on what they think, too. I'm not really trying to say that my opinion is 100% fact, but maybe you'll agree with some of these songs. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you didn't realize these songs were that good, so you'll go check them out. And really, if anything, that's the goal. I mean, I don't want people hating on me. I don't want people messaging me in these videos and in the comments and saying like, oh, why do I care about your opinion? You don't have to care. I'm just putting it out there because it's interesting to me. Maybe some people never heard of these things, and just to have somebody else's opinion, it will inspire them to check out some great music that they might have missed the opportunity to otherwise. So it's all for the sake and the love of art and music. That one guy who commented on my video before, like, you're just a punk. Get out of here. But yeah, peace everybody, and have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Peace. Super Comic Guru Alucard out.